So in this video we're going to look at designing an effective marketing mix. The only real key term you need for this one is the marketing mix itself. So the marketing mix is those elements of a business's approach to marketing that enable it to satisfy and delight its customers. Key point to do with this topic is that the marketing mix should be recognised as an integrated idea. So it links together lots of different parts of the business. It can't really be looked at in isolation. So we need to look at this idea of the marketing mix, not just the separate P's of the 4 P's. So it's the 4 P's together rather than individual price, place, product and promotion. So you must start to think of it like that, not just individual P's, but all the P's together. So let's look at what influences there may be on the marketing mix. So the first one, let's look at finance. So a business's decision in any functional area will be influenced by its financial position. So as marketing involves significant spending before any results are achieved, so we have to spend that money before we get it back, and will always therefore include an element of risk. The actual money that the business has is critical. So we have to look at, first of all, cash flow. If a business is suffering from cash flow problems, it may need to reduce spending on things like promotion, as this can lead to significant expenditure before any revenue is received. So we're not saying that marketing mix won't bring in money. What we're saying is it might cause cash flow problems because we spend that money before we get it back. Similarly, difficulties with cash flow may encourage a business to cut its prices dramatically in order to bring in much needed cash in the short term. Discounts. Is the organisation large enough to acquire raw materials at a lower price, or economies of scale? So for instance, in the UK, our big supermarkets, so Tesco and Asda for instance, can obtain things like milk at a much lower price than smaller grocers. So Tesco can use that as part of their marketing mix. They can say that they are low priced on the essentials that people need to live. The marketing budget and the cost of promotions. So businesses generally base their promotional decisions on how effective that promotion will be. So for instance, we sometimes measure it on cost per thousand. So say for instance, a promotional campaign costing £60,000 and reaching 600,000 people. So if a promotion costs £60,000 and reaches 600,000 people, then we'll say it's got a cost of 10 pence per thousand, 10 pence per customer. So we could say that finance might have an impact on what promotions we put on. If it costs, say, 20 pence per customer to run a promotion rather than 10 pence, we'd do the one that costs 10 pence. And what about how technology can influence the marketing mix? Well, let's look at if we sell technologically advanced products. So in most cases, if a product is technologically advanced, it's probably going to be more popular with customers. There is an obvious connection between advanced technology and the price that is set. So technologically advanced products such as the new iPhone, for instance, require much less effort in terms of promotion, as the product themselves and word of mouth help to sell them. So people know that the latest iPhone has different features to less technologically advanced products, so people talk about that rather than other products. So perhaps we don't have to spend as much on promotion. What about the sophistication of the information held about customers? What do we know about our customers basically? So if a business has acquired information on specific customers, it is much more likely to use direct mail or internet contact to attract them. So for instance, people like Tesco, through their club card, gain an understanding of the customer's tastes, and therefore they are able to target them with specific offers. So rather than really generic marketing, because Tesco know who their customers are and what they want through their club card, they can use technology to specifically design a marketing mix to fit just them. Technology also lowers costs. So advances in technology might enable an organisation to produce high quality products at a relatively low cost. So this might mean that we charge a lower price. Consequently then, the marketing mix can focus more on promoting the product and where to place the product in order to differentiate a product from those firms' competitors. So rather than just worrying about price, because we're using technology, we can keep the price low and worry about other things. Technology will also have an impact on whether we can sell online. So technology in the form of the internet is having a significant impact on place or distribution. So look, companies such as Amazon, they don't even require a traditional shop at all. So the internet offers an ideal opportunity to promote products to target customers by placing adverts on the side of a Facebook page, for instance, or a sponsored tweet. Okay, how can market research impact the marketing mix? Well, market research, as we know, provides information to a business which helps it to adapt to its customers, which means it has to adapt its marketing mix. So what about the level of competition? Well, if market research reveals the existence of a great deal of competition, a business needs to differentiate its product from those competitors. So market research might tell us we need a new packaging, we need to add a new feature to our product. So we can do that, as I say, through branding or changing the product. It also might mean that we have to develop new products to replace something that's in decline. In some industries, such as, mobile phone providers, so Vodafone or EE, the barriers to entry can limit competition. So I couldn't just go out and set up my own mobile phone company because I would need the masts, I would need all the infrastructure. So there isn't going to be much competition, so we design our marketing mix around that fact. What about the availability of substitutes? Well, market research may reveal the existence of substitutes for businesses' products. So businesses therefore might have to look beyond their own market and appreciate that other industries can have an impact on their success. So for example, a bus company are in competition with trains, not just other bus company, and also in competition with cars. So in some areas, companies such as Stagecoach around here have decided to take over not just buses, but there are some trains that are run by Stagecoach as well. That means they're getting rid of the possibility of there being competition. What about consumer opinions? Well, ultimately, this is the most important factor. This is the one that we really need to think about in terms of the marketing mix and market research. A business's products must satisfy the needs of customers, so continuous market research is required to determine what the needs of the customers are. With greater scope for targeting particular market segments, there is now a tendency for businesses to aim towards more variety in product range, with each variation targeting a different market segment. So what customers want, found out through market research, will have an influence on the marketing mix. Whether we're trying to target a niche or a mass market as well will have an impact. So market research will guide a business towards either differentiated, so lots of different people having different things targeted at them, or undifferentiated, so people getting the same thing. If the product is aimed at a niche market, promotions will be placed in the media that are used by the customers within that niche. If a mass market is targeted, media with broad coverage such as national newspapers or ITV will be used. Again, market research will be used to discover the best form of media to attract particular customers. And then there's market segments. So some target markets might be easy to reach through a certain media. So specialist magazines are used to promote products such as cosmetics and computer games because of the profile of the magazine's readership matches the segment that the business is trying to attract. So computer games are advertised in computer game magazines, for instance. Similarly, the target market segment can influence price. If a product is targeted at a wealthy market segment, then the price is usually going to be higher than if it were targeted at a less wealthy segment. What about other factors then that can impact the marketing mix? So the first one I've given you there is the relative power of buyers and suppliers. So if a firm is in a strong position to dictate terms to its suppliers, so it can say how much it's going to pay, when it's going to pay, what it needs to buy, it's more likely to be able to acquire cheap supplies. So for instance, in the UK, banana supplies are in the hands of a few strong suppliers that can dictate the price to small grocers, meaning that small grocers cannot compete on price with supermarkets, for instance. However, the large supermarkets can bargain for much lower price than smaller grocers because they're bigger than the banana suppliers, so they can emphasize low prices in their marketing mix. So this means that it allows them to focus more on price in their marketing mix than if they were a small grocer. If a product only has a limited number of buyers, this may weaken the seller's position. So an example of that is milk, for instance. So in the past, most milk was sold to millions of individual customers through doorstep deliveries, your milkman, which allowed the dairies to set a higher price, partly because the consumers were willing to pay a premium for the convenience of delivery. Now, though, most milk is sold through supermarkets, which use their power as a buyer to reduce the price that they pay for milk. So as a result of that, more of the profit from milk is now made by supermarkets rather than the dairy or the farmer, who are in a much weaker bargaining position. So with this in mind, farmers and others involved in the dairy industry are moving into other activities, so they're changing their product or are trying to sell their products directly to consumers through farm shops, so they're changing their place. So because of the power of the buyers and suppliers, they've had to change their marketing mix. So I'll give you, don't want to do that. The example there, I'll just write milk. What about the quality of promotion? There is an element of chance involved in promotion. So some campaigns have failed because they were not cost effective. So there's a famous example of, it was during one of the Olympics where McDonald's ran a campaign whereby every time an American athlete won a medal, they gave away a free meal. But due to political issues, the Soviet Union didn't take part in this Olympics, so pretty much every medal was won by an American. So they cost McDonald's a huge amount, so it wasn't successful. Yes, they got a lot of press, but the amount that they had to give away meant that it wasn't successful. Other campaigns have captivated customers, though, and been successful in generating extra sales. So when Kate Moss, for instance, released a range at Topshop, or when David Beckham released a range at H&M, they were massively successful. Elasticity of demand. So you've heard about elasticity of price. So if a high price does not stop customers buying a product, it might be that we can charge an even higher price. So however, for some products, though, a high price would lead to a fall in demand, so only a low price can be set in these cases. So remember, one of the ways to remember it is it's a ratio of price to demand. So in this case, if price goes up by 1 unit, then demand will fall by 1 unit. In this example, if price goes up by 1 unit, it'll fall by 2 units. Always remember that one is price and one is demand. So we know that if we put the price up, demand is going to fall. So we ignore the minus. That's why we don't draw it in. What about the reputation of the business? Well, some businesses deliberately avoid price cuts because they may adversely, so negatively, affect their upmarket image. So it's very difficult, for instance, to get a discount on an Audi car. Others with a reputation for providing value for money will deliberately emphasize lower prices. So Asda's famous for that. They show off about their prices in their adverts all the time. What about convenience of the location? Well, in many industries, customers want easy access to the place where the product is being sold. Place is considered to be the most important element in the marketing mix for some supermarkets and a vital element in the clothing and confectionery industries. But you must be careful when commenting on location as a factor in the marketing mix. So for instance, a remote location may not matter to a factory supplying industrial goods unless it increased costs or distribution costs, for instance. It may actually reduce costs if it's in a low wage area, though, or close to raw materials. However, a remote location will definitely be a problem if the organisation expects customers to visit the site in order to purchase goods. So the impact of place varies considerably between businesses. In general, though, it's more important to firms who supply to directly to the public rather than to intermediaries. So why exactly is the marketing mix or an integrated marketing mix important? Remember, this is the important word. join together, bringing together all of the business. So I'll give you some examples. So a good marketing mix needs to be coordinated so that each element supports the other parts of the mix. So for instance, if the main selling point of a product is its excellence, its quality, then the quality and the design of the product must match consumers' expectations. Wealthy customers would expect to see a high price in an upmarket place where they are likely to buy the product. A supermarket, however, will want its low price economy range of products to be packaged simply so that customers can see that money isn't wasted on packaging. Consumers will also not expect to see expensive advertising campaigns for this type of product, as they might question whether the business is really making an effort to keep costs down. Then you've got to think about what is the purpose of promotion. So invariably, it is needed to draw the attention of consumers to features of the product that will make them want to purchase it. Promotion may be used to emphasize desirable features of the product, especially when informative advertising is used. The promotions may also emphasize the price being charged. A firm using price cuts is unlikely to succeed if no one is actually aware of the price cuts. So we have to think of why we're using promotion. And also, effective or efficient distribution or place may enable a firm to keep costs and prices low. So the point of sale can be used to show the product and promote it through posters. These posters, if appropriate, may promote price cuts or special offers. In most cases, all of the elements of the marketing mix are important, but it is generally believed that the product itself is the key to making a successful marketing mix. Promotions may encourage consumers to buy a product, the price may attract interest and lead to a purchase, and consumers will only buy the product if it is available in a place where they are looking. But if the product fails to satisfy customers and their needs, the marketing mix is unlikely to succeed. Although product is invariably the key, there will be instances when other elements of the marketing mix dominate. So for instance, at a festival, only one type of bottled water might be available, so the place is the most important factor. Consumers with limited money might choose the item with the lowest price because they have insufficient resources to purchase other products. A persuasive promotional campaign might encourage a purchase, particularly if the product is an impulse buy, for instance. Something to remember, don't always assume that every organisation wants to use the media that reaches most consumers. So don't always assume that every business wants to use the television. The cost per thousand for television advertisements may be high when measured in relation to target specifics or specialist magazine or local media outlets, which can be much more cost effective. So don't fall into the trap of assuming for every question that the answer is always going to be television in terms of promotion. So how do we coordinate the marketing mix with other businesses? So we saw earlier that the 4 Ps must be coordinated for marketing to succeed. The success of the marketing mix also depends on other functional areas of the business. And remember, we call these functional areas operations, finance, people, or HR, and they all fit into, they all must work with marketing. So we call those the functional areas. Any business must ensure that each of its functional area works with all the other functional areas. So for example, if the marketing department needs new market researchers, the business must recruit them, so it must coordinate with the human resource or the people or the personnel department. And it must also coordinate with the finance department, which must agree on how much they can spend to recruit these people. When compiling the marketing mix, the marketing function must liaise with other departments in the organisation to ensure that each department is working towards the same goals and adopting consistent strategies. So now we're going to look at how the marketing mix will work with other functions. So how does it work with operations or operations management? So the marketing department's aims must be consistent with the production department's approach as well. If the marketing mix is, for instance, aiming to create an upmarket quality image, it is vital that the products being manufactured meet this requirement. High quality after sales service will also be necessary if such a target is to be achieved, especially if the marketing department has emphasised this as a key element of its mix. So, to put it more simply, the two departments must coordinate production levels to make sure that a successful marketing campaign does not cause frustration for customers because of insufficient products that have been manufactured. On occasion, the marketing department will need to constrain or delay any ideas and plans if the operations function is not in a position to deliver on these plans. A really good example is when the Nintendo Wii was first introduced. Nintendo produced 1.8 million units in that first month it was launched, but market research showed that they actually could have sold 3.6 million. So because of poor coordination between marketing and production, Nintendo were estimated to have lost £1.3 billion in that first month in lost sales. And a lot of them didn't go back to Nintendo. They went to the Xbox 360, or they went to the PlayStation, or they just didn't want to go back to Nintendo because they felt as though they were let down. And how does the marketing mix work with the finance function? So just like the operations function, cooperation is needed between the finance and marketing departments. If the marketing mix is ambitious, if it's taking into account lots of different things, it may be necessary to stop certain activities, marketing activities especially, if there's insufficient funds. However, if the marketing department can justify this expenditure, the finance department might be able to source extra funds to make sure that this marketing mix works. The finance department must also allocate sufficient money to each department that is supporting the marketing effort. So if they know that they're going to have to recruit some new people to help with this marketing mix, they need to make sure that the HR department or the personnel department have got the money to do that. Ultimately, the marketing budget and all of the budgets must be agreed with the finance department. And finally, how does it fit with the personnel department? Personnel, remember, is just another way of saying human resources department or the people department. A successful marketing mix ultimately needs to be delivered by people. So because of this, the personnel or the HR department and the marketing department need to coordinate their activities. Staff in the marketing department must be recruited effectively, and each department must have the right number of suitably qualified staff with the required skills. Changes in the marketing mix may well require changes in staffing or how the staff are trained. So customer service training, for instance, is a specific example of how human resources or personnel activities might impact the marketing function. Although each function area has to compete with the other areas of the business for resources, or money especially, ultimately they're all trying to achieve the same corporate objectives. The co-op are a good example of this. If you think they've targeted largely niche market insofar as they target, they specifically target the market segment of blind and partially sighted people. So for instance, the co-op started to use Braille on its packaging, and all of their own label packages, I think it's, as far as I'm aware it is, all have Braille on. So the co-op have signed up to the Guide Dogs for the Blind Association's High Street Charter, and they are relying on word of mouth advertising, so a strategy that's based on a close network of blind people. The co-op is guaranteeing that the prices for Braille labelled products will be the same ongoing, in keeping with the stance on trying to be ethical and socially responsible. The other main focus is on place. So to assist the blind and partially sighted people, the supermarket is training its staff on the new label and on the charter. So the charter advises shops on the way to help blind people, such as offering explanations of store layout, on providing guides, and helping them to pack their shopping. So the whole business is trying to achieve the corporate objective of targeting this niche market, but they've had to design a marketing mix in order to do that. Something else to remember is when answering questions on marketing mix, you should always look for evidence of approaches that have been successful or unsuccessful and try to put these in your answer. So if something has been successful, why has it been successful, and should they continue to do that? And if something's been unsuccessful, why has it been unsuccessful, and should we try to avoid doing that in the future?